Welcome, everyone. Have you ever ridden the train and looked out the window and wondered what's out there? Specifically, the New York City subway system. Those tunnels are amazing. Ever since I was very young, I've been fascinated with the New York City subway system. And from my first memories of riding the train, I remember plastering my face to the window and trying to look out and see whatever was out there. I think everyone at a young age is this way. When I ride the train now, I see young children doing the same as I once did. The one difference, however, between these young children and myself is that when they grow older, I think most of them lose this curiosity. I, on the other hand, have not. What started as a young boy learning about the new world around him quickly grew into his desire for exploration and discovery. I wanted to experience this unknown world firsthand. The sight, the smell, and the touch of these tunnels. So when it came time to choose my senior project, this seemed like a perfect opportunity to do just that, to explore this New York City subway system. This seemed like a great idea, but as I thought about it, I didn't really know how I was going to do this without breaking the law. And I did seriously consider, well, not maybe totally seriously, but I did consider the idea of sneaking into a few tunnels and abandoned stations. And when I told this to my dad, he said it wouldn't be a good idea. So I ended up not having to do that because luckily an alumni from Green Meadow, David Bosch, is the Director of Leasings and Acquisitions at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, MTA for short, which is the organization that operates the New York City subway system. So after emailing back and forth with him in mid-August, he agreed to help me with this project. And before I go any further, I have to say that this project would not have been possible at all without all his help. So I spent the next month or so exploring different parts of the New York City subway system and learning about that. It was during this time that I got to accompany the MTA photographer Pat Cashin and a construction crew into the Montague Tunnels, which run under the East River. This was an amazing experience for me. The day started with, we walked down the steps to the last station before the tunnel, walked to the end of the platform and climbed down the ladder onto the tracks. Immediately upon entering the tunnel, I was hit by this damp, strong smell. The air was refreshingly cool, but full of moisture. And the walls were dark with condensation, and the work lights reflected in all the puddles of water along the floor. We walked 100 or so feet further into the tunnel and rounded a bend, blocking all sight from the platform. Even though we were not to the construction yet and had left the platform behind, and it was mainly quiet, there was the slight low rumble, as if an approaching train was coming. Luckily, we did not have to worry about this because electric to the third rail had been turned off for construction and safety. We walked further along into the tunnel, and the construction crew that was accompanying us pointed out the different systems they had been repairing due to the damage caused by Sandy. So I tried to listen to all that they said, but for the first good 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I was totally overwhelmed. I had dreamed of this day for so long, and it was really hard to believe that I was finally living out this dream. I was finally walking under the streets of New York City in its subway tunnel. After this exploration and a few others, it was time for me to actually choose what I wanted to make my film about. In short, when I brought my first script and a list of ideas to the MTA and those helping me there, they said something along the lines of, this is a good idea, but you'll need 2 years to make it. And looking back on that first script now, they were absolutely right. I had no clue what I was getting into when I started this film. And it was just a much more complex problem than I could ever imagine. Another aspect I was totally out in space about was the overall planning of this film. I hoped to be filming in December and January and done most of the editing by mid to late February. As you will find out, this did not happen at all. Instead, I spent the next few months revising my script and trying to get permission to film in different locations. My original idea for this film was to show how, although so many people rely on the subway system, so few know about how it works and the behind the scenes operations to it. And although I had to cut down on this idea quite a bit, I kept this idea through to the film that I ended up making. Getting permission took 3 months and taught me a tremendous amount about how massive and complex the MTA system really is. Between the end of November and the beginning of March, through email conversations and meetings at the MTA with Mr. Bosch and other MTA employees, I slowly learned how what I originally thought was a small, medium-sized film project, in fact, was much, much more. I was unaware of the scale of this project until I was forwarded an email by Mr. Bosch of a conversation of many MTA employees who had all been working on getting access to different locations for me to film. And when I got this email, I read the entire email thread through from the bottom to top. And once I got to the top, I was shocked because I could not imagine that there were so many people involved with this project and that they had been working on getting me this permission for the past many months without me even having the slightest idea that they were even aware of my project. When this happened, it was an amazing moment for myself because it really hit me that this project was going to be real. As March grew closer, however, we still did not have permission, and I began to fear that I would not be able to make this film. Luckily, however, right in the beginning of March, we did obtain permission, and I had to quickly begin filming. I proceeded to film the yard worker portion and the train operator portion in 2 locations in the Bronx, and the construction worker interviews were filmed underneath Grand Central in the East Side Access Project. The passenger section was filmed in many different stations and train lines all across Manhattan. Once filming was complete, it was time to edit. And throughout the whole filmmaking process, this is the most difficult for me. And it was especially challenging to edit this piece to follow my original ideas. But with the ability to share it with other video editors, I was able to do this very satisfactorily, I think. I grew not only did this project well, but grew as an editor on the whole. I view this whole filmmaking process as a way to learn about the world around me and about myself. And this project has definitely done that. I learned a tremendous amount about the filmmaking process, and not only of the actual shooting and editing, but a lot about the planning and pre-production of such films. Also, I learned how larger organizations and just planning in a larger scale works. And the most significant portion of this project to me was learning the different life stories of the different people I got to meet throughout this project. Every person I talked to during this project, they had a very interesting life story, and it was just an amazing experience to get to know them and get to hear their stories. I view this film that I have made as a part 1 of a larger series I would like to do on the New York City subway system sometime in the future. And because I've dreamt of this for so long and have had such an amazing experience doing this, I really am going to try my hardest to expand on this film and make more, exploring different aspects of the subway system, which I did not cover in this film. So now, without further ado, I would like to show you my film, and afterwards I will answer any questions that may have arisen during my presentation or during the film. But before we do that, I would like to ask anybody in the balcony who might feel inclined to move during the film to do so either now or after the film, because any slight movement will shake the projector and affect the picture on the screen. So with that said, here's the film. So now I would like to do my thank yous, and this project would not at all have been possible without the many people that were involved. And so I would first like to thank Pedro Sosa, and he could not make it today, but he assisted me on my shoots, and it was really weird for him to be assisting me because usually it's the other way around. But it was great to have him there because when I was freaking out, he was used to the pressure and kept me straight. So that was a great help to have him there. I would like to thank Ernie Generali, Seth Melman, Diana Van Kampen, and Amy Hart, who helped me with my edits, kept me thinking creatively, and just were overall supportive in developing my ideas. I would especially like to thank Diana because at the age of 14, I believe it was, she allowed me to start assisting her as a photo assistant on photo shoots and in the studio, and I really feel that without her doing that, I would not be able to do projects like these. So it's really, I've learned so much working with her, and it really is, I feel, because of her that I'm able to do these visual projects. I would like to thank Mr. Wilson, my in-school mentor, for being my time and reality check, because I did need that a lot, and also helping me with story development and working on my speech and this whole presentation. Thank you for my class, because you guys are the best group of people I could have asked for. You've been, for the past 10 years, you have been the most supportive class I could have hoped for, and you've always been there no matter what. And I would like to extend that to the entire Green Meadow community, because you've supported both my sister and I and my dad for the past 10 years and through everything, and it's just been an amazing experience to be in a community that is just filled with such amazing people. I would like to thank, I have so many, I would like to thank all the people at the MTA who made this project possible, and especially David Bosch, because if it had to come down to one person, I really feel that it was Mr. Bosch who made this possible. Ever since the first day that we met in August, he was making the connections between the different MTA employees and different departments to get the necessary permissions and people involved, and even on the day of filming in the East Side Access Project, when I forgot my boots, he was able to find an extra pair that I could borrow to make it so we didn't have to reschedule, which probably would not have been possible. So it all came down to those pair of boots. And of course my family, because it's just been an amazing ride, and Dad, thank you for being the strongest person I know. And my sister, although she's in Germany, she can bother me beyond belief, which I believe is good for me. So I just wanted to say that and get it out there that even though she does bother me, I appreciate it and love it. With that, thank you all for coming, and I can answer any questions now.
Voiceover in your
So that was a man I met doing a previous documentary I made. We asked him to do the voiceovers for that previous documentary, and through that I already knew him, so I asked if he could do the voiceovers for this. Yeah.
If one is inclined to, is it possible to purchase the photographs?
Yes.
Yeah. If you are so inclined, I have one more in the back that I'm going to hang outside as well. But if you would like to, I guess come talk to me. Yes.
It's not a question so much as I grew up in Manhattan, commuted to high school, commuted to college, commuted to work for 10 years, and saw many of these things, and it's fantastic. And what the angles that you got right from the opening shot, like in the interior of the car, and the way that form is just fabulous.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ken.
Yeah, it's a great film. Does the MTA have any plans to use it for anything?
I don't know. Part of the process of getting permission was I had to agree to only show it in a select venue setting. So it was here was one that they granted, and on my website and YouTube later. But besides that, it would be really cool. But I don't know.
And you've got a whole series coming, right? So.
Hopefully. Yes.
Basically, all subway systems are universal. You have New York City there. Is that the superior subway?
I think that could be argued about a lot. It is one of the largest, I believe, and
It's the largest in the U.S.
it's the largest in the U.S. And it's probably close to, it's not the most complex, but it's probably one of the most complex. I guess I chose it just because of living right outside of New York City, but it also has, I've seen pictures of other subway systems, and they're very clean, which is weird. And I personally don't like that. So I like the atmosphere around the New York City subway system. So I probably, if I had a choice, I would have chosen, from what I know of other systems, I probably would have chosen the New York City subway system. Any others? Yes.
In creating this, did you write it like a screenplay or storyboard it or a combination? What was your process?
So I start out with just an outline of my thoughts, and then I proceeded to write a script as a normal screenplay, and it was mainly a lot of interviews. So I wrote out the questions I wanted, but then I also wrote out the answers that I would hope for generally, just so the answers make the story to those questions. So in writing the answers, I was able to shape the film and the tone of the film. And then when I got done with that, I went to storyboarding to get the types of shots I wanted to show what they were talking about and different things like that. The one thing, however, is I was kind of going into this and learning on the fly. I did not know this was like all new to me, especially the yard worker and the construction. So a lot of the shots that I had hoped for in the when I was in the storyboarding process, not all of them were possible to do just because they were unrealistic, and I didn't know that at the time of storyboarding. Yes.
How many hours of shooting and how long did it take to edit it?
That's a good question. A lot. Shooting, well, including the 2 time lapses that you saw, which were each, well, the opening one, the sunrise one was 4 hours of sitting in a car by myself in the cold, and the sunset one was standing out in the cold with my dad in Brooklyn Bridge Park for 2 hours. Then the other filming was probably, overall, the editing took a majority of the time. It probably was over 100 hours put together, filming and editing. Definitely over 100 hours. Yes.
Who was the girl? Was she just random?
No, I guess there's a story behind that. I went up to visit William Colgan at Harvard this summer. He was taking a summer college. You can ask him. When I went up there with Carl to visit him, she was a student at that summer program, and he was friends with her, and he introduced us, and she said, "Oh, I live in New York City," and when I couldn't find really anybody else, I was looking for an adult who had the time to interview, and no New York adult, New York City resident adult. So, yeah, I asked her. Yes.
What equipment did you use, both for the filming and for editing?
So I was hoping to use a Canon C100, which is a pro line video camera. Unfortunately, rental costs and time and planning did not allow for that. So I used my DSLR, which is a few years old. It's definitely good enough, though. I mean, it's amazing what this technology is capable of doing. So I used a DSLR, and then for editing, I used the Adobe suite. So Premiere, After Effects, Sound Boot, Audition, it's now called, Speed Grade for the color corrections. Yeah. Thank you.